everybody. We're about to record another episode, and it's going to be fun. We hope you watch, and that you'll subscribe. Give us 5 stars, 5 stars only. If you figure out a way to give us 6 stars, we also appreciate that. So we're going to click over and get things
rolling.
And here we go.
Guess I can wait for you to take a seat so you're not squeaking and all sorts when I introduce myself.
I don't want to squeak. I'm not a squeaker.
Squeakity squeak. All right.
You ready?
Yep. And 3. Hey guys, this is Hannah Bauer here from the PHNX21creative Agency, and I'm here yet again with the founder, Kenny Lang. Say what's up, Kenny.
What's up?
How's it going? How's the Wednesday looking?
Wednesday is looking good. I'm excited. Just got a brand new truck over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So now I feel like a big boy. And just excited. About to go to my son's soccer practice. Family does matter. But we
That's
can get
correct.
into that
Another time. Yes. All right, well, let's just jump right in. Today we are talking about the value of values.
That's
Catchy.
Yeah, we should pay somebody to think of those sort of things.
I know. Man, we should maybe start a marketing business. We'd probably be pretty good at that.
That'd be a great idea. We should we'll crowdsource some ideas and
Yeah.
see what we come up with.
Yeah, we'll think about it. All right, so the value of values. Now, I'm assuming most people listening would have some sort of definition and understanding of what the word value means. But can you go ahead and just give us a quick definition from your perspective of what value means to you?
Right, yeah. Values, much like mission statements and vision statements, are something that have been thrown around in corporate America and churches and pretty much any enterprise for a really long time. And recently, we've been going through the process ourselves, and I feel like definitions are important. So what I've come to see values mean, at least the way we'll be talking about them today, is they're 2 things. One, they are the how that helps funnel your vision and your mission. Your mission is your why and your vision is your what, but the values communicate how you're going to achieve those. The other item, which I think may be more applicable today, we'll see where the questions take us, is they are a filter by which you can evaluate without having to come up with something every time. You can evaluate, should I hire this person? Should I take on this new client? Should I take on this project or grant the request a current client has asked? And I just think it allows us to make decisions more easily, because suddenly now we have our moral or ethical compass down on paper. And so long as we filter everything through that, then we should end up where we want to go. I think the saying, if you, failing to plan is planning to fail. And
Yeah.
I view not having values down on paper, whether digital or actual, physical, is planning to fail. Because your values can shift if they just stay up inside your head. Even if you are just a company of one and you're a solopreneur, you need to have those for yourself.
Okay, that's cool. So it's kind of like your guidebook, so to say, is what you think.
Yeah. Some people may say it's a compass, but definitely a guidebook. It won't tell you what decision to make, but it'll certainly help you make better ones and make them more often.
Right. So you mentioned it helping funnel even correct clients and projects and stuff. How does that go about if you come across something that maybe doesn't fit all of the values? Are you saying it's better to turn away potential lump sum to stick to what you believe, or is there a little give in that?
That's a great question, and it's one I think anybody who's been in business for more than 5 minutes has had to wrestle with. You've been asked by a client to do a project that is outside of, sometimes it can be outside of your skill set, and in that case you can bring more people in. But say in our case, where we put such a heavy emphasis on being digital first and inbound, if we're getting requests for a lot of outbound marketing,
Mm-hmm.
then if we trade, we're going to trade in our values and what we place as a priority and what we espouse for cash. And if that's the case, then our values can be purchased.
Right.
For sale. And I don't think anybody ever says, hey, I value this, but for the right price, I don't have to. I think if you do say that, then you really need to evaluate yourself and have a come to Jesus meeting with the man in the mirror.
Right.
Or woman in the mirror. But I don't think anybody ever sets out to sell out their values.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it becomes a lot harder to give on those sort of requests when you have them down. He said, no, this is who I am, this is who we are as a business, and we're not going to move. Whether that crosses an ethical boundary, whether it crosses a moral boundary, or even crosses a creative or standard of excellence boundary. Because sometimes clients will ask you to do work, and if it's really not an example of the kind of work you do, then you may be better off. Short term, it may be a payoff, but long term, that work is going to represent you at some
Right.
way in the future. What I would recommend is, for more on that, to answer that question, is go and listen to the episode, episode 1, where we discuss transactional versus relational. I think can shed some light and help us explain that, where transactional would be, yeah, I'll do anything so long as you pay me.
Right.
Now relational may not totally line up with that, but it's that short-term versus long-term.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think, or why, I guess is a better way to put it, why do you think it's important to have corporate values rather than just expecting each person to come in with their own values? Because I think we each individually have our own values, and what those values are is going to differ for each person and what area of life they're in. But why do you think it's important, or what are the benefits of setting corporate ones?
Yeah, so setting corporate ones or business ones are important because your business really does need to exist as its own entity. And everybody, yes, I agree, everybody has their own core values. And they should. If they don't have any, then they probably shouldn't have any place in your business. Now, truth be told, everybody has core values. Whether or not they're aware of them or not is a different discussion for another day. So when the business can write down core values and say, this is what we represent collectively, that's something that during a hiring process or a prospect qualification process, that those things can come up. Because if anybody has been in a relationship, and hello, if you have a friend or a spouse, you have parents and grandparents, any relationship you both have values. And the success of that relationship can likely be traced to how much overlap there is between those values. Am I saying that we shouldn't be friends or attempt to befriend or have relationships with people who are wildly different from us? Not at all. I have those relationships. And some of that is informed by my faith, and other parts are informed by my desire to connect with a broader range of people. There's there's something called the echo chamber that we won't go into, but a lot of people form those echo chambers where essentially they hear their values echoed and confirmed over and over again, and it doesn't allow us to have an outside perspective. But that's not exactly what we're talking about in having these core values. So when a business can go into the marketplace, which is a lot like an individual, like a sales rep or somebody going into a networking meeting, you've now stepped in with your peers. Some have been in business longer, some about the same, and unless you're like, hey, this is day 3 of being in business, some are likely to be day 4 or day 1 and or younger. So when you do that, it'll let you see, hey, who do I want to connect with? Who do I? Because client relationships, especially if you're in a client services driven business, which is what we're in, it's what I think virtually all of our clients are in a client service oriented business. Those aren't one-time transactions.
Right.
Now you may say, well, someone like Apple tends to draw a certain type of person that they value certain things, and I would agree with you. But once somebody has purchased an Apple product or somebody's purchased a Dell or anything else that is a product, there's a transaction that happened, they can ultimately separate and use the device separately. Client services is about relationships. And so if you're going to have an ongoing relationship, if you don't match up at the core with a lot of things, it's going to be really hard to have a successful relationship ongoing. And you may think I'm being too stringent or too hard if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I need the cash flow and I need the money, and I get it because I've taken on those clients that we were not a fit, but dadgummit, I needed to put food on the table. And you're going to have those, but as time goes on and you get more leverage in the marketplace and with your client base, you're going to find that you really don't want to take those on if you don't have to. Simply because there are certain things, there's a principle of I forget what the kind of what arena it comes out of, but of having an open hand or a closed hand around certain things. Core values, we should have a closed hand. Those are things that we're really not willing to negotiate.
Right.
When we have an open hand, those should be things like preferences.
Yeah.
Okay, your client wants, for us, we build, one of the things we do is build websites or marketing materials, so colors and fonts and styles are all very, very subjective. Now nobody send me an email and tell me about color theory and font pairings and stuff. I know that there is some science there, but for clients, for the most part, it's very, very subjective.
Right.
And it's almost exclusively art and no science. It's not worth creating a ton of friction if the client really wants blue, but you think that it should be green. That's an open hand thing. If the client, however, is all about screwing you out of every last penny on the transaction and overly legalistic, and you value more of a go with the flow type of thing, those needs to be close hand things because those will quickly produce friction. And what that means for you, not just frustration, but that person now has a negative experience with your business, your service. And what are they going to do? They're going to tell people about it. People are more likely to talk about negative experiences than positive experiences. And so you're, even to some extent, or to a great extent, you are protecting yourself.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's almost a worse deal, or you'll screw yourself over more if you don't say no to something that doesn't fit for you. You go ahead and say yes, and then in the long run, if it winds up not working, then it's almost worse than if you had just said no in the first place.
Right, it's like dating somebody.
Yeah.
You may initially, you're like, well, guys, you may look at a girl and say, wow, she's really pretty. She's very critical. She doesn't like any of the things I like, but she's pretty. And you date her, and it would be the equivalent of, you know what, let's go ahead and get married. But you fight all the time, and it never gets any better, and you think marriage is going to solve it. And by the way, just free relationship advice, nobody has to pay me for this part. Marriage fixes nothing. It only magnifies and amplifies, so things that were good become great, and things that were annoying become, major contention points, and that happens with clients. Things that on the outset you're like, oh my gosh, they have budget, they have, and even more budget, and they want, 4 projects instead of 1, and you're excited because you're looking at this mountain of cash that would, obviously benefit your business, but they say a lot of things that are red flags to you in the opening 2 to 3 meetings while you're doing your qualification process, whatever that looks like. And once you sign the contract, what became, some little red flags now become this white hot glaring problem that's beaming you in the face, and you're getting beat up over it, and over every little detail, and you might even not be profitable on it.
Right.
So save yourself the pain and the heartache, and establish the value. So I know we're setting a lot up front on the why, but I think you really have to understand the weight and the gravity of and importance of writing down and establishing your values. And they'll change. They will evolve over time. You may refine something more so. You may add new ones. You figure out, oh, good God, I didn't realize we valued that. One thing for us as the team is going to grow, because I'm the founder, and a lot will flow out from me personally. Over time, I'm going to get feedback, and people are going to say, you say we value this, but it seems like we value that. And you may discover that about yourself, and it may be a harsh reality, but, for good or bad, core values aren't just the good things.
Yeah.
Core values can be the negative things. I know this part may be a little long-winded, but if you go into this flippantly, or just say, you know what, core values, yeah, they're just a good idea. They're not just a good idea. They may be the one tool that helps you stay in business for the next 3 to 5 years and beyond, or if you treat it poorly or negatively or casually, they may be the thing that ends up sinking you when, whether you go out of business or, God forbid, you just come to hate something that initially you loved and were passionate about, which I think is tragic. It's going to be a negative outcome for you.
Yeah. So what are some values that you value? There we go. We'll go ahead and tag in that headline there again. Values that you value.
Hitting me on Front Street. Speaking of Front Street, very soon we will be on Front Street.
That's right.
Woohoo. Moving on up to the east side, or at least close to downtown, to get ourselves a piece of the pie. So be on the lookout on our website.
For our new
digs.
Yeah. Oh. Cool.
Yes.
Using the cool lingo there.
I am.
Down with the cool kids now, aren't you?
On some cool lingo. So
Is that because we're moving downtown, Tyler? Trying to get up on your street slang in case you come across any teenagers?
Yeah. So I've been, it's about to be summer here in Texas, so I was thinking about getting the old wool cap. For when it's 90 degrees.
Yeah.
I think I've seen some kids doing that. There's a little inside joke there that we may never explain. But so some of the things we value, I've been working through this, and over the last 6 weeks, I'm still not done. But for right now, some of the things that we have, as I open up my Evernote. By the way, this podcast is not sponsored by Evernote, but I would highly recommend them for taking notes. So some of them are things like fight, which I know may seem odd to people, but that's something that I feel has contributed to my success and been a part of my life. The more I look back, I tend to be quite feisty, for better or for worse.
And meaning, he's not punching everybody. Let's just point that out there. We don't have sparring matches. That's part of our marketing.
Not yet. We don't have the space for it, but
soon.
we'll have an office dedicated to foam paddles No, fight. The more I thought about that is, and something that I've been working on is that we fight for three different groups. Is that we fight for our team members, our fellow team members, by believing the best in one another. We fight for the agency by serving the mission wholeheartedly, and we fight for our clients by continually providing value before getting any in return. It's a fight in a good way. We're on, Dave Ramsey and his organization, one of their values, I forget exactly how they phrase it, but they talk about having a crusade mentality, is that they're doing work that matters and they're out to accomplish it. And that's part of that answer. One of the other ones is innovation, because I believe, for me and for us, and as part of serving the clients and ourselves, is we may not be to the point or have the resources right now to invent, which can take years and decades. But we can certainly innovate, which means we can take the tools that are being invented. Like there's a lot of people that we look up to and admire. They didn't invent Facebook, but they've innovated with that as a tool to create their brand, their platform, build their business. We want to be innovative in every tool that we touch and in the way that we approach things. So that's a constant building on top of, I've heard somebody say that a lot of creativity has little to do with creating something that didn't exist. It's simply putting together things that do exist in a way that never before was put together.
Right.
Funny enough, creativity is one that I'm considering leaving on the list, partly because of the captivation formula, which is clarity plus creativity equals captivating. That's why our tagline has the "be captivating" at the end. And creativity, I really like the book "The Accidental Creative" by Todd Henry. He describes creativity as finding solutions. And again, that's a value I think we bring to the table, is because a client may say, "Hey, we have this problem, and we need to find a solution to it." And then a lot of these other, whether it's fight or innovation or teach or be human, like we bring all those other elements in, but we're constantly finding solutions. We're not slapping cookie cutter, "Hey, this is what Social Media Examiner says that we should be doing with social media, so we're doing this with everybody," or "This is what HubSpot says that we should be doing in terms of inbound marketing, so we're doing absolutely everything the way that they say it should be done, regardless of the considerations of the actual problem," because there are very unique problems. Now, they may all share core elements that can be similarly solved, but there's unique qualities in that. And I think to dismiss the unique qualities in the problems means we're going to dismiss unique solutions. Clarity is a big one for me. I just feel like the lack of clarity in the marketplace and with businesses, and even just person-to-person communication, is severely lacking. I don't think people are taught hardly at all to articulate clearly their thoughts, their ideas. And I think that's the reason why Donald Miller and the Story Brand business, that they're just taking off. He's about to release his book this year with a lot of the framework in there, but their whole message is about if you confuse, you lose.
Right.
Clarity is the key. And what they found in a lot of their research is that it's not even the best products are not winning in the marketplace. If you and I each have a pen, and my pen is hard to understand how it benefits you, but yours is easy to understand, but maybe it's an inferior casing, the little clip is going to break quickly and the ink will be spotty or something like that, I'm probably still going to buy yours because I could quickly and easily understand why that was of a benefit to
Right.
me. And so it's not the best out there that's winning. It's the most clear. And so I want something I haven't. Again, a lot of this is in flux, but I want for clarity, our statement around that would be something like, we communicate in such a way that the possibility of misinterpretation is low by providing context and content with simplicity. I mean, that's all you have, is you have the content and you have the context. Our conversation is content, and a business, and then the podcast is some context for this. So finally, we have be human, something you and I have been talking a lot about on our walking meetings and other things, about what does that mean? How can we introduce a human element into our business, into people's marketing?
Right.
Because it's not just for how we operate, it's how we want to portray the businesses that give us the honor of stewarding their marketing. We want to make sure it's human. We've been following Drift, an online messaging tool for websites, and if you're curious about what that is, you can go to drift.com or go to our website and check it out and chat with me or Hannah. But they've been talking a lot about how we've automated, and I'm all for automation. Do not get me wrong. I could not have survived in the business this long without some automation. But we've automated out the parts that should be human. You'll hear Gary Vee talk about that every tweet that is sent from his account was all done by his thumb, is by his hand. It wasn't something that he had his team, which certainly he has the man and woman power to 800 people. He could pick somebody out to write some tweets for him and then just schedule them to be done. And I'm not here to bash scheduling distribution of certain things. Certainly we use that to our advantage, but I do think we've swung the pendulum too far the other way, and people are taking the wonderful, beautiful, albeit flawed element of humanity out of their marketing, and I think is creating a disconnect. Because if you're communicating to another human, we're all used to communicating human to human. That's why some people are now advocating there is no B2C, there is no B2B, there's only H to H, human to human.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that we don't use those terms B2C or B2B, so long as we understand that whatever the case, there's a human on the other end.
Right.
And humans have a particular way that they like to be interacted with. And I think the more that we do that, even though it may not be scalable, it may not be the most efficient, but I can guarantee you it's the most effective. And I really want to throw our weight of whatever resources we have and time we're in business. I want to place a big bet on being human.
Right.
Even though it'll slow our growth, possibly. But I want us to play for the long game, for legacy. I want people to remember that it was a joy to do business with us, and that it was a joy to do business with the businesses that we represented or did marketing for. So that one's a big one. But but it's been hard to dig these up. Because you can't ask somebody, you can't read a book and suddenly have your values.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask is, what's the process been for you in establishing these values? How have they drastically or changed since, hiring on new people, when changing from, being the solo entrepreneur? What was that? Solopreneur. Never heard that before. I thought that was pretty cool. I tried to
Mentally
make a note of that, but I forgot it already.
tell your friends.
Yes. So what's that been like? Since you started, and having your own core values to now watching your team grow. Has that changed?
Yeah, I would say my first reaction to the first part of your question of what's it been like to come up with these, it's been hell.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and joy all at the same time. So it really is pulling in opposite directions. I think I would say it's been hell just because it's been hard. There wasn't a shortcut, and I'm not a fan of shortcuts at all. But sometimes through thinking about this, I desperately wanted somebody to just be able to tell me exactly what the
Right.
answer was. Like, just give me the answer. What's the right answer? I don't care about the test. I just want the answer.
Yeah.
But the joy has been, really has been the journey. And I do enjoy the journey and it's good. But, there's times I'm sure if you're listening, you're a business leader with um, many responsibilities. Sometimes you want you'd love the world to pause so you can gather yourself and get
Mm-hmm.
things together, and you'd like clients to just not call you for a couple weeks so you could focus on this internal thing that long term is going to be awesome and huge and highly influential, but you realize that that's unrealistic. It's never going to happen. Business
Right.
is going to keep moving. The market's going to keep trucking. People are going to need your services and or your competitors, and you don't want to miss out on business because you're doing this. Um, but it's almost like taking one step back to take 2, 3, 4, 5 forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think doing that takes courage, and that's not to pat myself on the back. I've been at this for 6 or more weeks, and I really haven't done a great job of making an appointment with myself. Is something that as I look ahead to our 2-year anniversary, I definitely know I need to.
Mm-hmm.
But as we just mentioned earlier, we're going to be moving into an office soon, um, and there's some stuff in my personal life. My wife and I are trying to become foster parents, um, and other family members have things going on that we're trying to be there and supportive of. And I just want everything to stop, but it's not going to happen.
Mm.
And so some of it is just in the margins. Um, maybe I'm sitting and I'm waiting for my food at a restaurant. Maybe it's my lunch break and I take a minute to just pop in my headphones. I could be driving in my new truck. And I get an idea and something comes to me and I'm processing. And so it comes together piece by piece by piece. It's not going to be this brilliant brainstorm and, I'm going to have a Moses on the mountain sort of experience when I come down with the 10 commandments of the agency. As lovely as that would be, I don't think it's going to happen, but I do think you have to make those appointments with yourself in small batches to work on it, because a lack of focused work is detrimental. It doesn't just slow you down; it can actually send you in reverse. And so,
Yeah.
when I've taken more time, I felt more of it come together. And a lot of joy has been through really starting to articulate this,
Mm-hmm.
because then you start to get very confident, dare I say cocky, in what you value, because you say, no, this is us. And you'll start second guessing a lot of your decisions, which is, fun and not fun all at the same time. Um, but it can shed light on, say, you made a poor hiring decision, or you took on a client you had no business taking on, you did a project, or you're in the middle of that project and you're like, oh, snap.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't line up with our values. And now do you honor your commitment to finish the project? Do you honor your values? And I can't tell you which one to go, because everyone's situation is unique and different. But what I can tell you is that moving forward, you'll be able to filter those things out. And honestly, that's the part I'm most excited about, is to say this is who we are. Because identity, whether you're an individual or a business, identity is so crucial.
Right.
If you don't know who you are, it's hard as hell to interact with the people around you, because you won't know how your unique puzzle piece fits in with everybody else. And this isn't an argument to say, you should fit in. I believe that people do bring a unique quality to it, but I believe that together we make this beautiful picture, much like a puzzle does. But if you don't know the edges and the shapes and the round places of your piece, you're going to be constantly trying to force yourself into situations, or allow yourself to be placed into situations where it doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to produce frustration for you and the quote-unquote puzzle pieces,
right,
people around you. So the same, I think, can be said for a business. If a business has no identity, it doesn't know who it's supposed to market to. And if it doesn't know who it's supposed to market to, then every client is dumb luck. And if every client is dumb luck, then you don't know how to replicate it. And if you don't know how to replicate it, it won't be long before you're on the ropes and you're staring down the end of your business and possibly your dream.
Right. So has that affected your hiring process before, or in the future will it affect your hiring process?
Oh, it absolutely will affect the future hiring process. Bet your sweet Bippy on that one.
Guess you just got lucky when you hired me.
Yeah, I did. So, although after hiring you, I feel like we should add humility as a core value and help smooth out that rough edge. Kidding. Definitely in the future. In the past, I feel like I'm fairly intuitive with people, but shooting from the hip can only take you so far.
Yeah.
And having a number one, have a hiring process, and don't hire from a position of extreme need or fear, because you're going to make a really fast, stupid decision. I will guarantee you this. I've made them, and I've heard countless other stories of other people making them. But looking back, one, having a process would have helped, and two, really having these in line, I think, would have provided a more thorough filter checklist. I keep saying filter because that's really what they are, but a more thorough checklist to say, does this guy or gal, do they meet, do they line up here, do they line up here, do they line up here? And if I look at it and we have 7 and I've checked off 3 out of the 7, well, that's great that we share those 3 core values. That may mean that we should stay in touch, be connected on LinkedIn, follow each other on Twitter and Instagram, and occasionally shake hands in public. But it probably means that they're not ideal to come on board and be a part of the team and work with me day in and day out. One of the things is, do I like you? And then honestly, for anybody hiring, do you like that person? Do you spend more time at work than you do at home generally?
Right.
Be around people you're going to like, but also be around people who share the same core values. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for strife and frustration. And hiring, something I learned, or a saying I learned recently, or maybe it was just brought back to mind, was the best time to fire somebody is before you hire them. Fire them in the hiring process. And core values can and should be a significant part of that. I'm not saying that you have a specific core values talk. That should be evaluated throughout at every stage.
Yeah.
And by multiple people. That's one reason why moving forward, I'll be looking to have you or another team member help evaluate, or our advisory board, is because I'm going to see things the way I see things.
Right.
And I understand our values. I really But and if you as a leader don't hold tightly to your values and understand them better than those people that you lead, there is a problem. But you should allow those people that you lead to help you carry out and enforce and spread the gospel, so to speak, of those values throughout the organization, whether that's a new hire that's being onboarded, and let them hear from their peers instead of their supervisor, boss, manager, leader about them. Because it's one thing to hear. It's kind of like hearing something from your mom or dad, but if somebody else, your cool uncle, says it, then suddenly you're like, man, that makes a lot of sense. Then your team starts policing your core values. And like it or not, your core values are going to get shared. Your culture is going to get formed. But you have a choice on whether or not you're going to participate.
Mm-hmm.
And writing this out is a major way in which you can start to influence there.
Yeah. Well, before we sign off, do you have any advice for people who are sitting there scratching their heads saying, oh, I don't think I have any core values written down. I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Yeah. So, because this is fresh for me, I would say get yourself, if you're really comfortable writing on your phone or iPad or desktop or wherever you're comfortable making notes and kind of free-flowing. I tend to prefer to write free flow ideas and stuff on paper. So a lot of times I have multiple journals, and then I may translate, like leave the crap and then put the good stuff in digital, but not always. I would say figure out whatever you're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
Actually schedule an appointment on your calendar with yourself to where nobody else can book you. Especially if you use a booking tool like Calendly or HubSpot or something like that. People can grab your time without your permissions, your active permission, so to speak. Book that time out. I think that it should be ideally 60 to 90-minute chunks and multiple of them. And impose a deadline on yourself. Mine is going to be no later than June 30th of this year.
Mm-hmm.
I have 6 more weeks to get this done. Impose a deadline and get it done. I don't think it's unreasonable to set a 3-month timeline. That's basically what I'll be operating under. And every situation is different.
Yeah.
But I would say if you can block out gradually over, a 1, 2, 3-month period, those times with yourself to really write down and get clear on that. And as you go further, one of the things I'll be doing is giving you a copy to get feedback, being that you're a part of our team and you heavily influence what goes on here. I'm going to be giving my wife a copy. I'm going to give our advisory board a copy. I'm going to give some close friends a copy, partly because a lot of them are just, what do I value?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, if you're a founder, if you're, part of the core team of a startup or something else where you're higher up and your personal values heavily influence that of the rest of the organization, then, you need to have a really honest conversation with people.
Right.
Say, I feel like these are the things I value. Does this line up with what you know about me? And let them know, I need your brutal honesty. I'm not going to be mad at you for this. It's a safe spot, but I really need you to be very honest with me. Because that's going to be part of your self-awareness. Because if your core values are a bunch of trumped up ideals or aspirational values, which I have no problem with some aspirational values as long as they're infused with a bit of reality,
Yeah.
foot in either world. But if they're not grounded in what's accurate and real at that moment, then what you're going to find is people aren't going to take them seriously because they're going to see there's going to be dissonance. There's going to be a disconnect between what you say you value and what you do.
Right.
The people you lead, the clients you bring on, the vendors and third parties you interact with, they're all in their head, they're going to call BS. And then it'll end up just like most mission, vision, and core value statements that are plastered in really nice things on the wall that cost as much as somebody's car, but they're meaningless.
Yeah.
They're absolutely hollow. And I would like to think, if you're listening to this podcast, that you don't want anything that's hollow. You want something that's meaningful. You're either trying to get back up after a failure, and because you're trying with all your heart, so you're actually risking something, or you're doing well and you want to climb to that next level of excellence, and you don't want it to be just, I made some cash. What's it actually going to mean to the people around you, to the people you leave behind? Was it meaningful? Because history is filled with people who did hollow things, but were great in the moment.
Yeah.
It's also filled with a lot of people who did some really meaningful things, and they stuck to their core values for better and for worse.
Right. Awesome. So key takeaway, get some values and then value your values.
Yeah, and one thing I would say this, I know I'm throwing a curveball here, but if you listen to this at any time, because that's the beauty of podcasts, is you could listen to this the week it comes out. You could listen to it 3 years after it was released.
Yeah.
And if you want help with your core values, if you would like some feedback on the way that they're worded, because they also should be, simple. They should be memorable, portable, and emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And I would recommend looking into the Entree Leadership has some great trainings on core values, as does Craig Rochelle's leadership podcast on a value-driven culture. I would recommend those because I'm leaning on those. But if we can be of any help, going to our website, which is PHNX21creative Agency, and that's PHNX21creative Agency. Hit the chat button, contact form, whatever's on our website that allows you to connect with us, because things can change, because we're innovative. That's a
right.
value. Whatever the next thing is, or the phone number, if you need help moving forward with this, let us know and we'll do what we can. Now, we can't tell you if this lives up to who we know you to be, because we don't know you.
Yeah.
But we can certainly help you along the path.
Yeah.
And if that's of value to you and you don't feel like you know somebody good in your life that can help you with that, then I would be honored, as would Hannah, because that's being voluntold. We would love to help you rise in this particular area.
Awesome. Well, we've got a couple shout outs we want to give right here as we come to an end.
Yes, we do. So we want to thank D&M Audio for producing this episode. Thank you, David. And we also want to thank Quiet Drive for our intro music, all the energy. You can find them on iTunes. And Elenium for our outro, which will be kicking in here in just a second, because that's how we do it in post-production.
Right.
But you can find Elenium on SoundCloud and iTunes. I'm sure there's plenty more places, but those are the two big ones where I've found them. So go check them out.
Yeah, as we're signing off, I feel like this was a good time. I was going to use some of that street lingo. I'm going to go ahead and say it was lit, as the kids are saying these days. It was lit, the time together.
So cool.
Yeah. Hey, guys, we've enjoyed being with you today, so thank you for listening, and until next time, keep rising.
What?
Woo!
Hey there. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. We hope you leave a comment. Let us know what you think. If you have questions that you want answered in future episodes, or if something we said sounded like gibberish, just connect with us. And if you're watching this on Facebook years later, let us know.
Hopefully
if
we've gotten better.
Oh my God, yes, please let us have gotten better. If you need help with your core values, just leave a comment below this. Send us a direct message or visit the website and connect with us. But we would be honored to help you.